What it do, what it do, what it do. It's your boy B. Damone in the house with Coach Gomez.
Yes, sir.
And we are back at Level Up Productions. We're bringing you on episode 110 of Along the Wire, and this is SAISD week. Officially now all school districts are up and going in San Antonio high school football, SAISD being the last one to get their season kicked off, and that began this week.
Yeah,
so
Thursday night.
We're going to talk a little bit about that. The first game that kicked off was
Lanier Jefferson.
Lanier versus Jefferson.
Yep.
And that game was won 12-0 by Lanier. By Lanier. I had a friend of mine, Steven Whitaker, of ESPN, San Antonio Express News. He was at that game and said, it was a really hard fought throwback game.
Yeah.
A lot of 3 yards and a cloud of dust. A lot of running. And it was a difficult game for both squads. There was some special teams mishaps, but it's just good to see all schools playing right now.
Yeah.
So that kicked off SAISD, and then last night we had 2 games going down, 3 games going down. We had Kennedy versus
Memorial, Burbank Edison,
and Sam Houston versus Brack.
Yeah.
The Sam Brack game that we were at, we'll talk about right now. It was good to see Coach Hall and Coach Stewart get out there. Not that it's a passing of the torch, but you have Coach Hall in his last season starting, and you have Coach Stewart at Sam Houston, who's just beginning as he's coming in his first head coaching job from Duncanville.
Yeah.
And so that was great to see. It was a I wouldn't say I was gonna use the wrong word. It was a good game to watch. And one thing that you have to remember, I know that we talked about it with other teams and other situations when the season first starts off. Everything's not always going to be clean.
Oh no, because we're in our eyes right now. We're 6 games deep as far as Northside and everybody else. So. So, not that they've set a standard for this season for us, but we're used to seeing
optically.
Yeah, exactly. We're used to seeing stuff a little more in sync,
right,
and a little more execution. Well, with SAISD, got a little later start, so there was a lot more penalties probably, than we're normally seeing. We didn't see quick adjustments. I think maybe the coaches were a little rusty as well. But I think after getting this first game underneath their belt, I think it's gonna be a little better along the line. I mean, you can tell because there was close games with Brack and Sam 26-20. Then there was a close game with Edison 28-27. The only one where there was a huge difference was Memorial and Kennedy, where it was 48-14.
Right.
But the other schools that I just named off, I mean, I think offensively it looked like they're moving the ball. I think there's going to be a lot of adjustments defensively.
Yeah.
Once some defense adjustments take place, it's going to be totally different as far as the scores when we look at them next week, I believe.
Yeah, because exactly how you said, like I said with Coach Stewart coming on, and there's a lot of newness, of course, when it's a new season, different teams, and that's one thing that I always try to stress is that when a season starts, you could have the same players, but it could be an entirely different season. You might not have success because of adjustments made from previous years, and not having the on time start that people are used to. Even that adds to it. So being able to make those adjustments is why you don't see those big blowout scores other than that one game, and everybody's at the same level.
Yes, currently they are.
Yeah, so there hasn't been a district separation. So in that, and I was about to jump into the scores, but then when you're looking at this district, you still have to have Highlands play.
Yeah.
And you still have What's the other school I'm missing on there? No, you still have to have Highlands play.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you still have to have Highlands play.
And I think they play tonight, right? Highlands plays tonight.
You know what? Not that I saw.
You know what I'm looking forward though is once Coach Stewart's really up and going and running out there at Sam Houston, those kids at Sam Houston don't know what they got in that locker room with him being there.
Right.
Bringing all that knowledge, bringing
NFL knowledge.
We all know that. But the steps in heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think once these kids in the community respect what he's trying to do, that stadium's going to be packed. They'll have more athletes out there, and it'll be a sight to see.
Yeah, Highland starts next week versus Kennedy.
Gotcha.
Highland starts next week versus Kennedy. But yeah, definitely, and that was one thing I was going over during the pregame. I didn't have that exact thought, but that all makes sense because he comes from not only a powerhouse school that he helped coach at, but he comes from John Tyler High School himself.
Yeah.
And won a state title back in 1994. And played at Louisiana Tech, and then played on the Vikings, and then so all that great football experience and knowledge, he's going to end up, impressing on these kids, and and there's some talent over there at Sam Houston. So them being able to get a clear direction, and that, and them seeing somebody who comes from their state and been at every level and has success, at football is going to be something that I think is going to be able to influence those kids greatly.
Yeah.
And
the man's a winner, man. He
right.
won a state title as a player himself in high school. Won one at the high school level. Coaching. So, yeah, the guy's a winner. I think once they buy into exactly what he's trying to do over there, Sam Houston's going to be up on the rise.
Right. So that is your kickoff for SAISD. We have got them underway, and now we're going to get into our pick'ems now. So we will be right back, and thank you for watching Along the Wire. Hey, what it do? We are back for our pick'em segment. B. Damone and Coach Gomez. So last week, what did we decide on last week?
I don't know. You kept avoiding. I think you lost. I was like, hey, what about the scores from last week? You're like, you ignored me.
We'll go back and check them. I
think you might be 0-2-1.
Nah.
I think I might be 2-1-0.
But no, that was only week 2, wasn't it?
No, because I'm counting today because you're going to get the L today.
Wow. See? Look at that. Cut.
Time out.
Let's see.
Let's go. Let's do this.
All right. So Coach Gomez didn't think he'd be able to pick correctly, so he didn't get the first couple games on the
I did a handicap for him just so that
he did a edit. All right, so we're gonna go over the pick'ems, and this is what it is. Jefferson, Lanier. I had Jefferson. Lanier won, so strike one for me. I had Wagner beating New Braunfels, and Wagner lost, so down one again. I had Alamo Heights over Medina Valley. Medina Valley lost, so I got Alamo Heights. I got that one good. Let's see. I picked Stevens over Clark, and Clark won.
Okay.
26-21. Are you on the board now?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're only up by one.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. I had
should be Marion.
Yeah, it should be, but not with KSAT. Thank you. Let me scroll. Marion. Marion lost to Randolph, and I had Marion picked.
I had Randolph.
All right, so you got that. You got that. Next up is Falls City versus Woodsboro. I had Falls City. You have Fall Cities. Fall Cities won 55-0. Next is, make sure this game got played, Sabinal. Where we at? See, that's not even reported on KSAT. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. I had Sabinal beating Bruni, and Bruni won 30-27. Who'd you have?
Sabinal.
Sabinal.
So we both got L's.
Yep. Next up is D. Haynes versus Charlotte. I had D. Haynes. Who'd you have?
Charlotte.
Charlotte lost 42-7. Next up was the Del Rio game. Where are we at? And I'm saying the one name because on my pick'em I use the highlighter, so I can't see who the other team is.
That looks like a Sharpie to me.
It does, right? The Del Rio score is not reported.
Del Rio, Laredo Johnson.
So we'll come back to that one. Mark that one off. All right. Next up is
Bernie Geneva.
That's what it says. Like I'm gonna have to tell them, hey, just keep it how you have it on here. If it don't have reported, just keep it exactly how it is, because that's another one we'll have to come back to because it's not reported. Like, why post it if you're not gonna report it? So we're just gonna go off the screen. It's going to go off the screen. All right, so Southwest Legacy versus Rio Grande City. Who'd you have?
Southwest Legacy.
I had Southwest Legacy as well. Southwest Legacy won 41-20. Next up, Navarro versus Houston Christian. I had Navarro. Who'd you have? Navarro won 58-14. Church, John Paul, and Holy Cross did not play. Game was postponed. Next up was Cornerstone versus Legacy of Sport. Who did you have?
Cornerstone.
I had Cornerstone as well. Cornerstone finished 52-12. Yeah. They won. Hey, shout out real quick. Hey, Cornerstone's calling everybody out.
Yeah.
They want smoke the next 2 weeks. If you are a high school in San Antonio, Texas, or anywhere in Texas, they have 2 more weeks in which they're eligible to play and can pick up a game. So make sure y'all get in touch with Coach Bachman. And
so let me ask this. I know there was
and reach out to Cornerstone.
There was a couple guys from Cornerstone that they're going to get a state championship this year. How are they going to get a state championship then if they don't have playoffs?
I don't know.
They were just talking smack.
I don't know. But
didn't you hear the same thing though?
I did. And
for a couple of those players were saying that, right?
So
I thought it was. I was like, what are they talking about? In their mind?
Well, I mean, I know there's something like a independent playoff,
yeah.
But schools have to sign up for it.
Yeah.
But, I mean.
Yeah, so they're not necessarily bringing a state title back to Cornerstone.
Not necessarily.
Gotcha.
Let's see.
But they are calling everybody out and want the smoke, though.
And they have big victories.
Yeah.
So if you want to test yourself, you need to get out and play Cornerstone.
Holler at them.
Exactly. They so with that last game, they finished 8-1.
Mm-hmm.
8-1. Actually, I think that might be 9-1. Let me see. So yeah, and that one loss is to Trinity Christian Cedar Hill, who only has 2 losses. Or has 1 loss on the season, and that's two losses. One's to DeSoto, and then the other is to a team out of Virginia, I believe, that was traveling. So, yeah. All right. So next up, we got
Memorial Kennedy,
and Memorial won that one 48-14, and I had Kennedy in that game pick.
You did.
Edison Burbank. I had Edison picked, and Burbank won 28-27.
I had Edison too.
Next up, Sam Houston versus Brack. I had Sam Houston.
I had Brackenridge.
You had Brack. Brack won 26-20 in overtime. Next up is Harper versus Johnson. I had Johnson City. Who'd you have?
Harper.
Harper lost 45-8. Next up was Natalia and Carn City. I had Natalia, excuse me.
I had Natalia.
Natalia won 62-20. Next up, Pearsall versus Divine.
I had Divine.
I had Divine as well, and Divine won 41-0. All right. Next up is Hondo and Bandera.
Hondo.
I had Hondo as well. Hondo won 56-14 over Bandera. Next up, Pleasanton versus Somerset. I had Pleasanton. Who'd you have?
I had Pleasanton.
Pleasanton lost 27-29 to Somerset. And this district deciding game, Bernie and Lavernia, who'd you have?
Lavernia.
I had Bernie. Bernie won 40-32. I think that's their first time. I want us to make sure I read that right. Their first time winning district outright since 2014.
Who, Bernie?
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, Taylor versus Fredericksburg. I had Fredericksburg. Who'd you have?
Fredericksburg.
Fredericksburg won 55-13. Lampasas versus Canyon Lake. Who'd you have?
Passes.
I had Passes as well. 40-34, they won that game. Next up, Bernie Champion versus Kerrville Tivy.
I had Bernie Champion.
I had Bernie Champion as well, and Bernie Champion won 27-7. Speaking of, is any? I know schools with predominant winning histories, and you think of Kerrville Tivy and you think of Johnny Manziel, like they're really far from those times with this season.
And even before Johnny Manziel, Kerrville Tivy used to always have good squads.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They might have just fell off a little bit. Maybe some coaching has changed in the last couple of years. But they were a dominant program at one point.
Right. So next up, we got Seguin versus New Braunfels Canyon. Who did you have in that one?
Seguin.
And Seguin lost 49-41. I had New Braunfels Canyon. Next up, Judson versus East Central. I know you had East Central.
I had Judson.
Okay. I had Judson as well. 48-13, Judson won. Clemens Steele, who did you have?
I had Steele.
I had Clemens. Steele wins 21-14. That was a very close contested game the entire game. I look forward to hearing from Wyatt and some of the guys out at Steele on exactly how that game went.
Yeah. And
that says a lot. I mean, that district is.
We talked about that district. That's going to be playoff atmosphere every week.
Exactly. Next up, Holmes and Jay. Who did you have?
I had Jay.
I had Jay as well, and Holmes with the
W.
With the dub, their first dub of the year. 21-13, Holmes defeats Jay. Congratulations.
It's because they were ranked in that top 25. You gave them that motivation, baby. You roll your eyes.
I didn't roll my eyes. I was looking at the score. Congratulations to Holmes. All right, we got Warren versus Brennan.
Man.
Who'd you have?
I had Brennan.
I had Brennan as well. Warren with the upset. 20-14.
Shots out to Warren, man. Y'all played a tough game.
Two defensive scores is what I was told. And I'll be reaching out to more players to see what's going on, and I'll also reach out to Brennan's side because, I had made some comments about that offense and I felt like they were holding back versus Reagan. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Anyway, next up, Reagan versus Madison. Who did you have?
And I had Madison.
I had Reagan. Reagan won 38-14. Lee versus MacArthur.
And I had MacArthur.
I had MacArthur as well. Lee gets their first victory of the year, 27-21 over the Brahmas. Next up, where we at? Dilly versus Nixon Smiley. I had Nixon Smiley. Who'd you have?
Nixon Smiley.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up, here we go. Comfort versus Blanco.
Hold on, who won that? Nixon Smiley Diddley?
Nixon Smiley.
Okay.
I had Nixon Smiley in that one.
All right.
Wait, I'm sorry. Don't let me skip this one. Harlandale versus Vets Memorial. Who did you have?
Vets Memorial.
I had Vets Memorial as well. And Vets Memorial won 40-6. Let's see. Blanco versus Comfort. Who'd you have?
Blanco.
I had Blanco. You went against Comfort?
Yeah, I had to.
Okay, so why?
The coaching and the tradition that Blanco has. Blancos always have tough teams the past years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they battled it out with Comfort last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I went with them just because of the talent pool in that area of Central Texas where it's at.
See, I went with a word I'm going to make up right now is the dejectory. You know how things can traject?
Mm-hmm.
Deject being the opposite.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of, am I still coming through?
No.
So I'm thinking of the dejectory of how things are going right now.
Yeah.
They had a tough loss and then a bigger loss. And now I'm like, okay, Blanco's coming in hot. So I think they're just going to continue, to take Comfort down the road that they've been going these last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Because it's different if you win one, lose one. But if you're winning one, lose two, it might be building up in your head now. So that's why I chose Blanco.
And not only that, I chose them too because it's already that part of the season where probably Comfort has bumps, bruises, or kids have failed out and stuff like that where other factors come in.
Right.
And like you said, Blanco's been on that roll the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Where they started off slow, but now they're starting to steamroll, and then Comfort started off strong, and they're kind of starting to degrade a little bit.
St. Anthony's versus Austin St. Michael's was canceled.
But who won, Blanco or Comfort?
Oh, I'm sorry. Blanco won 42-28.
Who did you have?
I had Blanco.
You never went Dipping Springs McCullum. Did they play? Or they canceled?
Canceled.
Okay. Center Point.
That one's not on here. It's not on the reported scores.
Okay, let me write it down so we can look that one up.
Did Young Men's Leadership Academy play last night? After all, I have to see because that was another game that was up there. All right, Marion versus Randolph.
Randolph.
I had Marion. Randolph won 35-21, and that's one that I went back and forth on, and I think I just went with Marion with the hope factor.
Yeah, I went with Randolph. That I knew that they would pull it out just because I've seen Marion and just haven't adjusted well, man. Those coaches don't adjust, utilizing their athletes like they should.
Mm-hmm.
I had more confidence in Randolph.
So that's all the games that have been reported. Next up, we've got
no Cuero, none of that.
Nah, that's not. Cuero Smithsville wasn't reported. The ones that are showing right now are South Side versus Southwest. Who do you have in that one? That was canceled.
This one right here?
Yeah.
You said South Side versus Southwest. I'm going to go with South Side.
South Side as well. Brandeis versus Roosevelt. Who you got?
Brandeis.
I got Brandeis as well. Churchill versus Johnson. Who do you got? Johnson. On that game, what do you think that's going to be a closer game?
No.
You think Johnson's going to
open up?
Okay, by more than 2 touchdowns.
Yes.
Okay. What about Roosevelt Brandeis by more than 2 touchdowns?
Brandeis will win by more than 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Yeah, Southside will win by more than 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. All right, so we're going to catch up on our pick'ems and make sure that these games that get reported, we can find their scores, and we'll let you know who the winner is, definitely. Once again, we want to thank you for watching Along the Wire, and we will be right back with our next segment. Appreciate you. Hey, what it do? It's B. Damone and Coach Gomez, and we're going to go over a couple of games that we were able to get to and talk about Thursday night and Friday night. One of the games being New Braunfels versus Wagner.
Yeah.
Okay. New Braunfels versus Wagner. I'm going to start off talking about Wagner real quick. For the past couple years, there's always been a block with Wagner. Mental block, so to speak, and you could say mental/discipline, because they've always had those teams that, like, man, if y'all cut out these penalties or these little mistakes, y'all would be so much better. And this is a team that only lost 2 games the last 2 years to teams named Shadow Creek and Judson. So, as reported, they lost to New Braunfels, and that's the first team to beat them outside of Judson and Shadow Creek in the last 2 years. And some of that stuff was still there. Some of those penalties were still there, but what you don't have is the overall talent that you had the past couple years in being able to overcome some of those calls. Because, I mean, it'd be games when you would see Wagner get a couple of personal foul penalties and still be able to continue that drive, and they had multiple 15-yard penalties, and they'll still end up scoring on that drive somehow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talent was overcoming the mental issues and the discipline issues, and it's kind of hard to cultivate a winning culture. You would think it'd be hard to cultivate a winning culture, but when you're that talented and you're able to overcome those things, when you don't have that talent, it becomes even that more of a hill to climb.
Or especially having the talent to play in 6A like they are now.
Right.
They did make a jump.
Right.
The last 2 seasons, they were in SAISD's district.
Right.
Where, I mean, in reality, Wagner had a larger enrollment than all those other schools.
Exactly.
And a lot better talent pool.
Right.
So now when you jump to this 6A now, where it's basically a playoff game every week.
And your level. Exactly.
And the level of competition.
And you're in that district.
Yeah, you're actually in that district. The level of competition is a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
It exposes more of the penalties that you're talking about. You
right.
see, because in SAISD, they were able to get those penalties, but yet they had the better athletes to go and make up at long 3rd and 23 or whatever the case may be.
Right.
You get yourself in the 3rd and 23 in this district.
Yeah.
You can just
go
plan and get the punt crew ready. You know
right,
what I mean?
right. And it was funny because even I think I told you when you got to the game, I was like, man, there was one play, LJ Butler. It was 3rd and 18 or something like that, and he was still able to pick it up, and it was coming after it was actually a holding penalty, in which it was a chop block.
Mm-hmm.
A chop block penalty, so it was a personal foul, blocking below the waist, and they were able to pick that up. And I'm like, that thought popped back in my head, like, okay, they're going to do this again to New Braunfels, and okay, this is a team that they can do that against. Well, I was wrong, because New Braunfels has a hitter on their squad, Kendrick Thompson, who I put a couple clips up of, and New Braunfels stayed the course. They were the aggressor on defense, and Wagner's all that stuff caught up with him.
Yeah,
I mean, and then the other thing is, and tendencies. And I know that we spoke about another team with tendencies during halftime, but I'm not sure what was happening in that fourth quarter, but I've never seen a team allowed to run off so much clock in a one possession game, and which was forced to be a two possession game because of going for two instead of the extra point.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans just ran into a situation like that actually when they were trying to put a game away and then they end up losing it. This is kind of the inverse of it. You're trying to get that point back, but you're trying to get it back now and think that you can tie it up easier in the future. But yet, even with that in mind, exactly, you have 8 minutes left in the game, and you allow a team to go down the field, and you don't stop the clock at all.
Yeah.
Until it's like 2 minutes and 7 seconds left. But if you're Wagner, you don't have that necessarily explosive type of offense.
Nor defense, because, when they had DeMarcus there the last couple of years, he helped them out tremendously on them edges. And there was many times that cat was in the backfield making plays.
Right.
And when we saw them against New Braunfels the other night, you could tell they were hurting on that defensive line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it made a huge difference on them third downs whenever New Braunfels continued to get the first down and keep the drive alive to run that clock off.
If you didn't have two guys cutting off an angle with Driggers, he was finding somebody.
Yeah.
Because he was going to make one guy miss, and he was buying time with his feet and able to hit a guy. And I love that New Braunfels always had somebody who was within 6-7 yards of him in case whatever was downfield didn't work out. He was able to dump it off.
So that's just kudos to Driggers and his receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the coaches have something to do with it, but a lot of times, these kids, they don't understand the game of football, and when a quarterback gets to scrambling, all of them want to stay on their damn routes and continue going downfield.
Right.
And like you said, a lot of them were coming back towards him and working with him along the side, whether it was the left side or right side. I was really impressed on the play selections that the coaches from New Braunfels were calling the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
Driggers, he was on point. I hope he continues to play like that throughout the remainder of the season.
Because he was making a multitude of passes,
he was
different passes, and showed a lot of touch on passes.
Yeah, for sure. And y'all New Braunfels receivers, if y'all are watching our show, if y'all ever watch our show, man, there's a lot of passes y'all could just dive out and they are in your hands.
You gotta
if you lay out, if some of y'all would have laid out a couple of times, you would have at least had another 5 more grabs that would have helped out. I mean, y'all still got the W, but it's good for your completion pass ratio.
Exactly, and more so because y'all were the aggressor.
Yeah,
y'all were the aggressor. I think that it was very much a game in which New Braunfels, even on offense, was the team that if they made the play, they made the play. It was like Wagner had a counter puncher's mentality.
Yeah.
And that's not something that you're really used to seeing from Wagner. And I know, I made a comment about, hey, because Peyton Driggers was just running towards safeties and just allowed to go out of bounds. Nobody on Wagner made their presence felt to where the running backs or the quarterback had second thoughts or any. They were just running like, it's their field, and they were the away team.
Yeah.
They were the away team. So I mean y'all got to put a helmet on somebody. That's very paramount in football, period. And that's why the score ended up being how it was, because that lack of aggression in those senses, when you have a squad like New Braunfels receivers, how you were just saying, it was 3 or 4 plays. If they just extended or did that little bit of effort in which they might have gotten contact, that might have area they could have controlled.
No.
Just stick your arms out there, get that ball, because Wagner's not hitting.
Mm-mm.
And that's a difference. So
there was even a couple of times, I think, where one came across the middle, almost, I think he hit the kid in the hands. The Wagner defender was coming, but I think the receiver got scared thinking he was going to get lit up, but the Wagner guy didn't even hit him.
Right.
And then, like you said, there was some times where they're getting out of bounds, Wagner guy just kind of lets him go out of
Yeah.
bounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I totally agree. Where New Braunfels was the aggressor, and they probably could have got a little more aggressive. It probably could have got more dirtier.
Right.
As far as the score.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they were playing good ball in between. There wasn't a whole lot of chippiness, but New Braunfels was playing with tons of confidence.
Exactly. So, end of the day, New Braunfels went into Wagner and they took that game.
Yeah.
They took that game
on their turf.
And in all facets of the game, in coaching, on defense, and in offense. So, congratulations to New Braunfels, and that's our observations of that game. Next up, we were at Sam Houston versus Brack, and we touched on that a little bit earlier. New Braunfels, Brackenridge. I like their squad. I like their squad. A lot of height on that squad. A lot of 6'1" through 6'3" guys at key positions. I need to pull this up real quick, but I wish I had taken a picture of that.
What's that?
Of that roster list again, because I know they got
Marquise Corbin. Believe they had him at receiver and they had him a little bit of safety last night. He's going to contribute throughout the season.
Quarterback Camargo, running back. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Wilson, number 21.
Then you had Keith. Big Keith was doing really well.
Yeah, and then they have receiver, defensive back Dorian Holland.
And Allen did great. Shouts out Allen. Shouts out Keith.
Yeah,
some guys that play with me on 7-on-7. Y'all did a hell of a job last night. We're out at the game checking y'all out.
Yeah. And they came out to play. We took off at that game at halftime, but we found out that it later went to overtime. And also shout out Darius Govan, because his name was getting called a lot for tackles, and he was very disruptive, close to the line of scrimmage, and making plays out there. This was a game, I know, keep saying we touched on it earlier. I think both of these schools will probably end up in some way, shape, or form possibly playing each other again. I do think that these are the two top teams. Even though the depth that we saw, we got to see if Sam can get some more depth, because their lineup, they only had about 25 guys.
25 guys. And
that's something that we got to talk about too.
Still managed to go into overtime against a stacked Brat group.
So that lets you know that they're digging deep.
They are.
They're digging deep. And one thing I did notice that and it was after that out of bounds play in which the quarterback for Sam Houston, and he just he threw the ball and the guy was wide open on the sideline and he just stepped out of bounds.
Yeah.
When we were there, seeing that coaching staff pick up that receiver when that receiver was like, dang, nah, man, get back out there. We can, that's just one play, let's get it going again, and that was right before halftime, in which the running back from Brack was making an extra effort and would have had a hell of a run.
And his lineman hit him
in the back, and he fumbled. And I know the lineman had good intentions trying to get him to break, but
so who gets the credit for the fumble?
Right? Exactly. But because he had made about three or four guys miss, and he was churning his legs, and you saw the jersey getting pulled, and the lineman comes up and pops him.
What it was is there was a guy hanging on his thighs, I think, and the lineman kind of went saddled over the guy who was on his thighs and pushed him back. Caused him to fumble. Gave him some whiplash.
Yeah, because that was a hell of a hit.
If that run would have stood, it was gonna be a hell of a run.
Yeah. And but then unfortunately it caused the fumble, and then Sam had those last 50 seconds or so to try to score a touchdown. But I definitely see a lot of growth for both these squads. I think I like the quarterback at Brackenridge, and I like the receivers. I like the size of the receivers that they have out there too. So being able to get those guys the ball, I think, is going to make a very interesting um, matchups in SAISD. It's going to be very interesting because honestly, for the receivers that they do have, they did run the ball a lot, and I liked how 21 was running. And I think the first thing I said to you was he runs good. He might dance around a little bit too much because there was a couple of plays in which he danced into a tackle and he had some outside yardage where there was nobody, but he's fast enough to get out there. So once again, like the vision or the coach call type thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing Brack and Sam in the future.
I say with that district, with Wagner being out of it this year, who else is in Vets Memorial who's not in that district this year?
Right.
It's really a toss up, to be honest with you. With you got Brack, Sam Houston, Burbank, Edison, Highlands, Memorial, Kennedy, Lanier, and Jeff. It's seriously a
the
toss-up.
OGs.
Yeah, the original. Yeah, it's seriously a toss up when you take out Veterans Memorial and Wagner out of the mix. So it's going to be an interesting season with SAISD, to be honest, especially after seeing the games that we did see. It's going to be exciting to watch.
Do you know what I think would be an excellent addition, even though it would be cross-districting? Another new word. Cross-districting. I think it would have been awesome, and we're going to merge this right here. What about putting South San or West Campus into that SAISD district?
Even Harlandale, South San, like all those guys. But yeah, you're right. I mean, because they're all about the same enrollment.
Right.
They all have a history of being some of the first teams here in San Antonio. I think that would be cool. In a little 12-team district.
Right. I mean, that'd be nice. And then they can keep it how they have their zones right now. They're 2 parts.
Yeah.
I think that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Because you can add yeah, exactly. If you Harlandale, South San and South San West Campus. West Campus had their first game.
Yeah.
As well. It was JV, but they still hosted at South San Bobcat Stadium, and they played against Brooks Academy. Brooks Academy won 34-6, but some history took place as West Campus scored their first touchdown in football in 13 years. So congratulations to my alma mater for being back up and running. And hopefully by next year we'll be able to have a full varsity squad going. I think right now they only have 19, 20 players. And Coach Gonzalez is I think he's the right guy to start that up. I love his mentality and attitude every single time. Every single time we talk, it's extremely positive. And I think that a lot of times dealing with kids, they can look at each other and look over at the other team, and they just think of, oh, man, we're this, we're that, and they're this, they're that. And it's not a positive, but you got to go out there and make the plays. Just like, reverting back to the Wagner New Braunfels game. If you're not the enforcer of it, then you never know what can happen.
Yeah.
So congratulations to West Campus being back up and running for that district for South San, and South San's up in the playoff territory in that district.
Yeah.
So I think after the 2 years, I think they're going to do some realigning, and I think that would be interesting to see if they can find some way to do that, because I think, and when it comes to the city feel, you add Harlandale and South San and West Campus into that.
Yeah, sure.
So definitely. So we will be right back. That is our game coverage for this week. And we'll be talking about a little bit of the future. Yeah. And what some of these games mean coming up.
And one last thing, apologize to Edison Burbank. We had some gate issues.
Yeah, we'll have to clear that up. We're gonna get that cleared up because we weren't able to go as in depth on that. But hey, we will make that up for sure.
We'll make that up, guys.
Definitely. What it do? What it do? What it do? It is B. Damone and Coach Gomez, and we are back. And we're going to talk a little bit about the future of some games and some districts coming up because stuff is different. Yeah. Stuff is turning out different, and you know, we did our district predictions, and I mean, like, we can
trash.
We can throw some of that stuff away because. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Warren.
And Holmes.
And Holmes.
In the top 25.
And thank you. Well, let's see. I think the only district that we're okay in right now, well, Judson.
I mean, every district did.
But it's not like when I say Judson, it's not like I'm like, oh, that's a for sure thing.
No.
Because if they just, and this is what you got to think about. I know people don't be like, oh, well, if you beat this team, that doesn't mean you beat this team and that team, and things are different. I get it. But who in the hell, even when it comes to thinking about, who thought Jay would lose to Holmes?
Yeah, who thought Jay would start 0-5 or 0-4, right?
Right. And who thought that Warren would beat Brennan?
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, kudos to those schools, especially Warren. Warren's now 4-1, and that puts that district up in the air because you got Harlan with 2 losses, you got Marshall with 2 losses, you got
Stevens with 1, right?
Stevens lost again. They lost to Clark.
Oh man,
Stevens lost to Clark.
Just made it hard on themselves.
So, so now. It's tied between Brennan and Warren. So now you got to look at Warren's future schedule. Who could they possibly lose to? And now this is, if you're taking that, if Warren, you know who I'm talking to. You message me. Now y'all got the lead. So if you're out front, now you got that target on your back.
Yeah.
Because you're past Brennan. You still got to play Harlan. I know Harlan looks wounded, but it's different when you're playing something wounded than when you're wounding it.
Yeah.
So if everybody still has goals and ambitions and still trying to make the playoffs, so now this is the point when you got to dig deep. Y'all did something special and beat Brennan. And so Warren, you know, this is the time. This is the time to focus. If all that work that y'all been putting in the off season, all the game preparation, the coaches, I know coaches, and they just had and they have a new coach this year too. So hey. Take these fruits that are presenting themselves with that victory over Brennan. Getting back into Northeast ISD, you got Madison just lost to Reagan, so now Reagan's up there, and Reagan and Brandeis becomes huge.
Yeah,
Reagan and Brandeis becomes huge, and that could be a very, very good game. It will be a very good game just based off the 2 schools, period. Brandeis has Roosevelt to get by tonight, so we don't want to look too far ahead, but we are looking ahead. And with what's happening this week, I know we said that we think that certain schools will win by 2 touchdowns, but once again, you never know.
Yeah.
And it's not like Roosevelt doesn't have athletes to beat Brandeis, but I think
it's being placed in the position to be successful.
There you go.
That's what it boils down to, and what your coach's game plan is. And I think Brandeis does a great job of doing that, moving kids around to be successful. But I think Brandeis's weakness is, and I think I've already told you, is at the QB position.
Right.
As far as experience, they got experience at all other positions, but that's the key position that needs experience in order to win those big games and overcome that I guess go over that hill, that hump.
I'm getting a message right now from somebody from Smithson Valley.
Oh yeah,
we got to think about Smithson Valley.
Yeah, That too. True. But yeah, that's what I think. If Brandeis can get the quarterback situation where he's comfortable and draw up some plays where Nico can be effective, they'll be on top tonight.
You're gonna have to get him in space to where he can use his arm because his height is a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So that, and I think if Brandeis can't run the ball effectively, then you can beat Brandeis, which is exactly what Johnson did with them. Yeah. Which is exactly what Johnson. You force them to be throwers, and you have an excellent opportunity at beating Brandeis. Yeah. Because if they can stay in that, like most schools, if you are always at 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3, you have a lot of chance to convert that, and you continue getting those first downs.
Yeah.
So if you can get them off time, stop them on that first down. If they want to throw the ball on first down, if you can stop Brandeis from completing that first down play and put them in that 2nd and 10, then okay, they're behind on the sticks, and now it's a game.
Yeah.
So that Brandeis Roosevelt game is going to be about who can put their players in the best position to be successful. Because the biggest who holds the ace or the joker is that Brandeis defense. Field position in that defense, Brandeis has the best part of that game on both sides. Like if you rank the offense, defense, and all that, and there's not many schools that Brandeis's defense wouldn't be the best part of that game. So it's all about the positioning, and I think that with Sermons in the backfield and Coleman at quarterback, they have the athletes to be able to control the clock. But what's the play calling going to be? Because once again, Roosevelt, like Wagner, sometimes you can be like, okay, what's the thought process on the play calling? Or when you have that horse in the back, like they've had the past couple years, with Rashad Owens. You can get comfortable and just, okay, we just got to hand it off to him. Because even last year, it was like, why you keep having them in the backfield when you can, make them more of a threat?
Spreading the field long.
Exactly. So it's gonna come down to those decision makings.
Yeah.
Man, it's gonna be a good game now that I'm thinking about it.
It is.
What other districts? You got Smithson Valley at 1 loss. Smithson Valley, and seeing how New Braunfels played, even more respect to Judson winning that game by 23 points over Wagner. But I don't see those aggression issues at Judson like I see popping up at Wagner.
No.
But then they played Clemens to 3 points that just lost to Steele, who lost to Smithson Valley by however many points. So I mean, it's all a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when you break down these games because New Braunfels lost to Steele by 1 point, who just beat Clemens by 7. So I mean, yeah, it's fun to think about, but the future of San Antonio football is very entertaining, but then once again, it's leveling out.
Yeah.
There's not a clear leader. And I still say that even though Judson is undefeated within the district or the city, they still have that 1 loss, and they still have some growing to do at key positions. And they did beat East Central last night, 48-14.
Yeah.
So you like seeing a school get back on a roll, but once they start playing those, that New Braunfels win is great. Let's see, what it is versus Steele. It might come back down to because Judson still played an awesome game last year.
Yeah.
51-48. So San Antonio football is exciting.
Yeah, bro.
It's exciting. I mean,
it's
a lot of variables, and it's still a lot of growing to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing what teams are able to take that step forward if they're ready to do that.
I'm just looking for a team to be. I mean, of course, there's certain programs that are consistent, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm just looking for a team who's consistent in the San Antonio area this season.
Yeah,
I haven't really seen that who's consistent as far as offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, special teams. Yeah, is it too much to ask for after a COVID year? Yeah, pretty much. But at the same time, you still got to set them standards and them expectations.
Exactly.
I thought we had found it with the comfort with the way they started,
right?
And then all of a sudden they've fallen off.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're looking at Brandeis the way they started,
all right,
and then they're kind of
right.
getting a little shaky. It's just totally different from last year where you hear about Wagner so much on the paper, on the news.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about Brandeis so much in the paper and the news.
Yeah.
And this year it's kind of like everybody's just flying under the radar.
Right.
You don't have that one dog or team that's just sticking out. You know
exactly.
what I mean? So it makes it for an interesting season this year.
Exactly. So, we're gonna wrap up now. We thank everybody for tuning in, and we look forward to giving y'all the best in San Antonio high school football. I hope you enjoyed the show and you continue to get your information from here. You can follow me on Twitter at @bdamone and on Instagram at Along the Wire. And you can follow Coach Gomez on Twitter
at STX7V7. And also one last thing, guys. I know we talk football. Continue to stay on your grades, guys. Continue to stay on your grades. That's really important. I mean, there's programs out there right now losing players due to this online schooling. There's all kinds of excuses. It could be from where I can't log in. The district has issues with their login, a lot of other things. Whatever the issues may be, if you got to make phone calls to call these teachers, call administrators, whatever you got to do to get your grades taken care of, get it taken care of.
Right.
Don't let that be the excuse that you can't go and play at the next level, or somebody backs off of you because you couldn't turn in some papers you're supposed to get graded. Use your resources.
Yeah, and these times are closer to being in college than it normally is being in high school because you have to take the initiative and get it done.
Facts.
Because no one's going to be on you getting up in the morning in college. You know what you have to do. So you may as well just start doing that now and build up those good habits.
Yeah. And there's some kids that I've talked to, well, I don't really got internet. It's unfortunate, yeah, we don't have internet, but there's a coffee shop, there's McDonald's, there's
Starbucks.
a lot of Starbucks, there's places that got Wi-Fi.
Barnes and Noble.
I know there's some of y'all that are still going out to the mall, so if you can get to the mall and go hang out with your friends, you can get to Barnes and Nobles or Starbucks to do your homework.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right.
Stay on top of it, though, guys.
All right. That has been Along the Wire, episode 110. We will see you next week with some more good, exciting action. Hook 'em, birds up, 2-0. We out.